I fear that we're, as Utahns, we're becoming numb to the problem and its repetitive nature.
9 Ogden City police officers are on leave after 2 officer-involved shootings within the last week.
Tonight, the police chief says violent clashes like this can be traced back to one source.
Tracking storms tonight and again into tomorrow morning. What to expect for your morning commute.
The Utah State Legislature meets in special session to deal with the special election for Utah's 2nd congressional district.
Sanctioned camping is one step closer to reality in Salt Lake City. How advocates say it helps unsheltered people and what happens next.
22 years ago, a Clearfield woman was born here at Lakeview Hospital in Bountiful. Turns out the nurse who helped deliver her is now her mother-in-law.
Live from Utah's news leader, Fox 13 News at 9 starts right now.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us tonight. I'm Kelly Chapman.
And I'm Bob Evans. 9 Ogden police officers are sidelined tonight after 2 recent officer-involved shootings has them on paid leave.
Fox 13 News reporter Jenna Bree shows us why the police chief believes it's not a coincidence that 2 of these incidents happened within days of each other.
Police were called to a bar parking lot on 25th Street early Tuesday morning, where witnesses told them a man with a gun may have been assaulting a woman. Soon the suspect drove off in a stolen car, officers following, eventually getting him to pull over.
Before the officers were able to exit their vehicle, the suspect exited the driver's door of the vehicle and advanced on the officers, withdrawing a handgun and firing at the officers in their vehicles. The officers exited their vehicles, and 2 of the vehicles were struck by the gunfire.
Chief Eric Young says an officer shot and killed the suspect, 23-year-old Alex Lopez.
It's a difficult, stressful career. The officers in our department are already under quite a bit of stress, just knowing that 8 of them were involved in a shooting. 1 was seriously injured, still dealing with a very serious injury from that previous shooting.
Chief Young says violent crime overall in Ogden has decreased by more than 50% in the last 15 years, but the number of officer-involved shootings has actually increased.
I'm concerned about the number of criminals convicted in violent felonies being released from prison and supervised in our community.
Lopez was arrested and charged with multiple felonies in 2019. He was out on his 3rd opportunity of parole after being rearrested and released twice for violating his parole.
The officers find themselves being put in harm's way to rearrest someone that they took great risk to arrest just a few months before.
Chief Young says the Justice Reinvestment Initiative signed into Utah law in 2015 is to blame for officers having to use deadly force more often.
We're very happy no one else was injured. Very happy none of our officers were injured. It's very unfortunate that a mother and father lost their son.
I reached out to the governor's office for comment and have not heard back.
We're seeing this larger proportion of criminals who are trying to be rehabilitated in our community rather than in a place where they're safe and our community is safe too.
The police department is utilizing officers from specialty assignments like school resource officers to make up for the temporary staffing shortage. In Ogden, Jenna Bree, Fox 13 News, Utah.
There is body and dash camera video the Weber County attorney is looking at as they investigate both recent officer-involved shootings. Police say they will be expediting the process so they can release it to the public as soon as possible.
A TRAX train hit a car this afternoon after UTA says the car drove under or around the crossing gates. It happened at about 1:30 at 1700 South, 200 West. This is in Salt Lake City. UTA says the 70-year-old driver was seriously hurt but is expected to survive and was able to speak with officers at the hospital. No one on the train was injured.
Salt Lake police have confirmed a body found in the Jordan River is that of a man who had been missing for the past month. In May, Unified Police said 22-year-old Tyler Svetich had not been to his Mill Creek apartment since May 12th, although he had been spotted a couple of times after that. Police said he liked swimming in the Jordan River. That's where his body was found this past Saturday. His cause of death is under investigation, but police say it does not appear to be suspicious.
The Granite School Board has approved a pay raise for support staff. Positions such as bus drivers, custodians, paraprofessionals, and nutrition service workers will get an extra $4 an hour. The district says this raise will not only help current employees, but help recruit for open positions that have been hard to fill since the pandemic. The agreement also includes no increase in health premium costs. The budget includes a proposed tax increase, about $73 a year for the average home, but that has not yet been finalized. Utah lawmakers met in special session today to change election dates to accommodate the resignation of Congressman Chris Stewart.
Fox 13 News political reporter Ben Winslow has more from Utah's Capitol Hill.
The Utah State Legislature met in special session to pass a bill setting a special election to replace Congressman Chris Stewart, who's resigning because his wife is dealing with a health issue. But Republican leaders on Utah's Capitol Hill aren't thrilled about it all.
Nothing's perfect, but if we were to move it into next year, imagine the mess we would have.
That's because it shifts the upcoming municipal elections for the entire state.
Now everybody's had to give a little bit on this, maybe a lot on this, but I'm satisfied that we can accomplish what is in the bill.
The bill sets new election dates of September 5th and November 21st. It has counties running elections instead of cities. The deadline to switch political parties to vote in a primary is immediately upon signature of the governor. Primary ballots can be postmarked on that day. The legislature also allocates $2.5 million to help with it all.
If we did not piggyback with the municipal elections, the cost would be significantly higher, if not double.
But Republican leaders deny they're moving the election to accommodate one person.
I think we're moving it to accommodate 818,000 voters.
Yeah, I'd even broaden that to the whole state of Utah.
Well, yeah, 3.2 million,
million people.
Voters that need to be represented, but especially those 818,000 voters who would not be represented.
Yeah.
We don't want the citizens of Utah to be underrepresented. That is the paramount importance.
Governor Spencer Cox will sign the bill while he's in Morocco on a trade mission. Lieutenant Governor Deidre Henderson, the state's chief elections officer, says they'll make a big effort to inform voters of the new election dates.
I think the most important thing for people to know throughout the state, even if you're not in Congressional District 2, is that the dates of the election are September 5th and November 21st.
The Senate president says the change may actually have a silver lining.
We also understand that when you put a congressional candidate with a municipal candidate, you may get an increased voter turnout. It may actually be a plus.
Again, some very important dates to remember. The primary election will now take place on September 5th. That's the day after Labor Day. The general election is now November 21st, the week of Thanksgiving. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Candidate filing ended today at 5 p.m. 13 Republicans, 3 Democrats, and 5 others, either unaffiliated or from other political parties, will work to get on the ballot either through the Utah GOP Special Convention or signature gathering.
Switching gears now to weather, and while we did see storms in parts of the Wasatch Front earlier today, just about 90 minutes ago, Bob, we saw this.
This is beautiful.
It's a gorgeous view from our Oquirrh Mountain camera. Oh man, take a look at those.
Well, you could just sit there and watch this for about a half an hour or more.
I love those sun rays coming through.
35.
For some reason, whenever I see a scene like this with the the clouds and the rays, I think of that old show, Highway to Heaven. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
I have visions of that from my childhood.
It is gorgeous out there, Alice.
It is, and while that was very calming, a lot of people like falling asleep to the sound of rain, maybe some thunder off in the distance. We've got quite a few thunderstorms that have been developing as expected. So we expected these storms to start picking up around 9 o'clock tonight. They certainly have been doing that. In fact, Utah County got in on the action a little early tonight around 8 o'clock. Right now through South Willard, quite a bit of lightning and also thunder. Utah County, we've got areas of thunderstorm activity from Point of the Mountain, basically further south down to Provo. Southwest end of the Oquirrhs, just southeast of Tooele, seeing some thunderstorms. And with these storms tonight, we have a cold front moving through. And we also have a shortwave trough. I'll talk more about that coming up in just a little bit, but those two different things playing together, a lot of moisture available, and that means we're going to have some slow moving storms that could produce some heavy rainfall. Recent burn scars, slot canyons, will potentially be a big concern as we head into the overnight hours. So we have overnight storms expected. We typically see these during the daytime. So we're going to have overnight storms, potentially producing some heavy rainfall. More on that coming up.
A plan to build island communities in Utah Lake is suddenly dead in the water. We'll show you what happened.
Plus, a follow-up to a Fox 13 News investigation on one of the highest-ranking officers in the Salt Lake City Police Department. Why criminal charges are not being filed against him.
And it's a full circle moment for one Utah nurse after the baby she delivered decades ago marries into her family.
It's a heartwarming story you will only see on Fox 13 News.
A local soccer team had a great run overseas. We caught up with them when they returned home to a hero's welcome at the airport.
Welcome back, everyone. Plans to build islands on Utah Lake appear to be sinking. Lake Restoration Solutions, that's the company behind the ambitious plan, confirms to Fox 13 News it is dissolving.
In a statement, CEO John Benson says the lake continues to face significant challenges, but they no longer have the financial resources to continue the effort. He goes on to say, quote, "Our team will now cheer from the sidelines for Utah Lake and hope others will continue the important work of implementing the best restoration solutions for Utah Lake." Lake Restoration Solutions proposed spending billions of dollars to dredge Utah Lake and build islands on it as a way of addressing environmental problems. But the state rejected that, saying it wasn't passing constitutional muster and was detrimental to the citizens of Utah. The company sued the state over its permit being rejected, but a court filing obtained by Fox 13 News shows Lake Restoration Solutions is dropping its lawsuit. It's also seeking to get out of a lawsuit involving a BYU professor who was critical of their proposal.
I'm not interested in like vindictiveness or blaming or finger pointing towards people, but I am really interested in taking a hard look at our processes. You know, why was the system so vulnerable to this kind of inappropriate pressure when there were, I think it's pretty clear there was a lot of money at stake, right? We were talking about this would have been the largest giveaway of state lands in state history.
Dr. Abbott says he is urging people to be vigilant about other lake development proposals that might come along.
Well, the Utah Division of Forestry, Fire, and State Lands issued a statement saying it continues to work to enhance the viability of Utah Lake and protecting sovereign lands for public ownership. But the agency says it is disappointed the company chose not to proceed in obtaining a final decision on this important issue. The legislature has authorized a study to look at how Utah handles liquor licenses compared to other states.
At a meeting today, Fox 13 News found out Utah is still one of the most restrictive states when it comes to how many bar licenses are handed out. Utah has an arbitrary quota of 1 bar license per 10,200 people, but no one can say where that number came from.
Essentially, what we'd like this study to do is to look at the population model and see if that's the right model to use and compare it with other states and come up with some sound arguments that we can defend going forward in the future, because right now we don't have any data to explain to the public or to anyone else how we come up with that number, other than historically it's been 1 bar per 10,200.
It has been a chronic problem with more applicants than licenses. Some criticize the policy, saying it hurts small businesses and economic development in Utah. But some lawmakers push back with concerns about DUIs and public safety. Well, it is time to turn to the weather, because we've had exciting weather today, interesting weather.
Some people got rain, some people had sunshine, some people just had overcast skies.
What was the line that I said in our meeting earlier today? We've been everywhere but normal this month.
Everywhere but normal, I remember that.
So our
This whole
temperatures,
month, really?
yes, it's been a crazy June. We are not typically in this pattern where we're seeing these low pressure systems developing over California, moving in just every couple of days, bringing us chances for those storms to develop. The cloud cover has been great for our ozone, since that's typically a concern with sunshine during the afternoon hours. But We head into tonight and we have some different concerns. We have a cold front passing northwest Utah that's moving towards the east-southeast. We also, this orange dash line that you're seeing is a shortwave trough. So with these features, we've got a lot of moisture available for the storms that are developing overnight, where we could see some areas of flash flooding. Plus, into tomorrow, we're really going to be focusing from about Salt Lake down through Cedar City, really into central Utah, the possibility of some areas of flash flooding. So for the morning drive tomorrow, thunderstorms are expected. Into tomorrow evening, mostly cloudy, about 70 degrees. Temperatures tomorrow, not a big deal. Comfortable, mild for the most part. 50s for many of you when you wake up. Temperatures into the 70s tomorrow. The bigger deal will be the chances for storms overnight, potentially producing some heavy rainfall, and also the chance for those storms into early tomorrow through much of the day. So for satellite and radar right now, just south of Brigham City, areas of rain through South Willard. We had some storms earlier today that produced quite a bit of rainfall for the Cache Valley. And what we're expecting with these storms tonight, potentially rain rates of an inch, inch and a half in an hour. And we could even see some very localized amounts of closer to 2 to 3 inch rates. So we are looking at some storms that have the potential to cause some problems for recent burn scars, slot canyons, normally dry washes. Those are our biggest concern for tonight. Utah County, we've had some thunderstorm activity as you're getting ready for bed tonight. Right over Eagle Mountain right now. That was an area that we had a flood advisory a few days ago. Across central Utah, looking at mainly a little more widespread light to moderate rainfall, Castledale all the way over towards the Nevada border. And then across far southern Utah, a little bit of rain moving through the Lake Powell area. So our precipitation chances for Utah County, Provo, you're this blue line. You're becoming more widely scattered to isolated, getting closer to midnight tonight. For Salt Lake, we have yet to peak. We will likely see a peak about 1 a.m., numerous showers and thunderstorms. And then again, getting into about 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, potentially even widespread at times. And for Ogden, kind of following that same trend, then we see less of a chance throughout the day tomorrow. Then our next system that moves in late weekend into early next week, still a lot of question marks here. This could produce potentially another atmospheric river event, or we could just end up with cooler, dry and windy conditions. So still some question marks on how that's going to play out, but we will have some changes next week. We're just not exactly sure what the changes will be. For tomorrow, storm threat across the entire state, potentially seeing our areas of heaviest rainfall, likely though Salt Lake down to about Cedar City. St. George, 90 tomorrow, 84 on Friday, 96 on Father's Day, windy into Monday. And for the Wasatch Front, 70s through Friday, 80 on Saturday, close to 90 on Father's Day. We'll talk more about next week's cool down coming up.
Allison, thanks so much. You're going to love this next story. It's about a connection you might never expect.
Oh, it's incredible how the world can be really small at times. This story is about a Utah labor and delivery nurse and then a baby she helped deliver more than 20 years ago. As Fox 13 News reporter Chris Arnold shows us, the two are now family.
It's a story you'll only see right here.
It was on this day 22 years ago. I was having contractions.
Stacy Paul headed to Lakeview Hospital in Bountiful as she prepared to give birth to her third child, Kelsey, on June 15, 2001.
I was really nervous going into it.
Those nerves calmed by labor and delivery nurse Marianne West. Marianne, a mother of 3 herself, had her son Tyler just a year earlier.
She only delivered a couple pushes later. All went well, baby did great.
Baby Kelsey, born at 6 pounds, 6 ounces, pictured here with Marianne right after delivery.
We'll take care of whatever they need, and then we take them over to a warmer where we can weigh them, measure them, do footprints.
Kelsey was here and in Marianne's arms, and she was wiping her off and putting her on my chest.
Days after giving birth, Stacy and Kelsey would leave Lakeview Hospital here in Bountiful, their paths not crossing again with Marianne for more than 2 decades. Until Kelsey and her now husband Tyler put 2 and 2 together.
Well, that's definitely her handwriting.
Remember Tyler, Marianne's son? He and Kelsey started dating in 2021 and got engaged earlier this year.
We were looking through the baby book. I believe it was to find pictures for our wedding video.
The two got married last month.
We had an inkling that maybe she had brought my mom something, maybe because we knew she had worked at Lakeview around that time. but we didn't know if we would ever find out exactly what extent that was.
That's when Tyler recognized the woman holding his now wife in one of the pictures.
I turned to her, I'm like, that's definitely my mom. That was a really cool, big shock to us when we found that out.
A meaningful moment.
The glue to our two families that we were always meant to be together, so.
It's like I had both of my moms in the room with me when I was born. You know, that's something that's really touching.
More than 2 decades in the making.
It was fun making that connection that 22 years later, these two found each other, fell in love. The rest is history.
There are some things that are just too strange and strong to be a coincidence. And in this, that's exactly how I feel here.
In Bountiful, Chris Arnold, Fox 13 News, Utah.
That
How about
cool.
that, right? Wow. The forces of nature.
Oh, boy.
Coming up, a search is underway for the person who shot out a dozen car windows. We have details of the crime and its effect on Salt Lake City's Ballpark neighborhood.
And a motorcyclist accused of speeding at more than 100 miles an hour and evading law enforcement has finally been caught. The message tonight from the Utah Highway Patrol.
Salt Lake City police searching for the suspect or suspects who officers believe used a pellet gun to shoot out at least 10 car windows in the Ballpark neighborhood. Police say the first report of a broken car window came in just after 4:30 this morning. The chair of the Ballpark Community Council says it is disappointing to see vandalism like this.
We're standing near some income-restricted apartments, and I just think about what a bummer it would be if you walk out ready to go to work or a social event and you saw your car window bashed in. That's an expensive hassle to deal with.
Police are still investigating the motive and what charges will be. They are asking anyone with information to call the non-emergency dispatch line.
After 3 weeks of trying to find a motorcyclist who was riding recklessly and evading UHP troopers in 3 counties, authorities have made an arrest. As you can see in this video from a DPS helicopter, the suspect was riding at an estimated 140 miles an hour. Officials say 42-year-old Richard Goulet put innocent lives at risk. Thankfully, no one was hurt.
And then we have passing over double yellow lines, so he was actually passing, trying to get around slower traffic and going into oncoming traffic in curves. And if he goes head on with somebody, that has the potential to harm the innocent victim that's coming around the corner and has no idea what's going on, right?
One of his charges is not stopping for police, with more charges possible as the investigation continues.
We can find people to get them into housing, permanent supportive housing.
A sanctioned homeless camp could be coming to Salt Lake City. How this could impact unsheltered individuals, business owners, and residents.
Anthropology students are unearthing history. What they've learned about a Native American village that existed in what is now Provo, and why this dig was a race against time.
The Bees tried to get an afternoon win in Oklahoma City, plus a hero's welcome for a local soccer team.
Captain Stephen Bennett is one of the highest-ranked police officers in the Salt Lake City Police Department.
He's been under investigation for nearly a year because of an incident at a bar in Cottonwood Heights. But now prosecutors say he will not be charged with a crime.
Fox 13 News investigative reporter Adam Herbetz broke the story and has tonight's update.
Well, the 2 potential charges were disorderly conduct and witness tampering. Both of those cases are now finished. But more than 11 months later, Captain Stephen Bennett is still under investigation by his own department.
I walked around the corner and he said, "What you're doing is really," and I said, "I'm just doing my job," and he said, "Well, you're doing your job wrong."
This bartender says Salt Lake City Police Captain Stephen Bennett lost it when she asked to see his friend's ID.
I said, "Hey, I'd just like to get your side of the story about what just happened there." He said, "I don't have to tell you, I'll just take care of this."
Captain Bennett left before the Cottonwood Heights Police Department arrived. They opened an investigation into disorderly conduct and eventually witness tampering.
He said, "I'll remember that, and next time if I see you outside of here, just wait and see what happens to you.
According to the Cottonwood Heights police report, Captain Bennett contacted other employees at the bar in an attempt to get them to pressure the bartender into letting this go.
So we have no idea what happened in that conversation.
No, we don't.
Salt Lake County District Attorney Sim Gill says there's not enough evidence for witness tampering because the witness does not want to talk.
Now, that may be the result of people wanting to move on with their lives, or people, being afraid.
Say I'm charged with a crime, right? And I call you up, hey, Sim, I know you were there, you saw what happened, can you testify on my behalf? Because I'm basically just asking you to tell the truth, that would not be witness tampering.
That would not be witness tampering.
A prosecutor for Cottonwood Heights also reviewed the case. He wrote in an email, I don't think that what he did rose to the level of disorderly conduct.
As an officer, I certainly wouldn't want to go out in the public and bring the attention to me and start stomping my feet.
Kyle Jeffries is a retired detective with Clearfield PD with no ties to this case. He agrees prosecutors should not charge everyone who acts up in a bar. But he's confused why it's taking so long, almost a year and counting, for the Salt Lake City Police Department to finish the internal affairs investigation into Captain Bennett.
Is there any requirement or recommendation from you or your office for them to wait on their IA case until your case is finished?
No, I do not get to tell a police agency on what to do and how to do it.
Today, for the very first time since this case was opened about a year ago, the department finally recognized that Captain Bennett still works there and that the internal affairs case is still open. When we asked what's taking so long, they said they had no further comment. For now, reporting in the newsroom, Adam Herbetz, Fox 13 News, Utah.
A construction worker had to be sent to the hospital in serious condition this afternoon after the trench he was working in collapsed, burying him waist deep. Salt Lake Fire says it happened near 376 West, 200 South at about 2:30 at a construction site operated by Rimrock Construction. The cause of the collapse is under investigation. Fox 13 News has reached out to Rimrock Construction for comment, but we have not heard back yet.
We have seen and reported on over and over Salt Lake police clearing out camps where unsheltered people were living.
A new plan would actually endorse homeless camps as a step toward getting people into permanent housing.
Fox 13 News reporter Darian DeBrule spoke with people experiencing homelessness and community leaders about how it would work.
The idea of having a place to call home is something Miranda Twitchell and others experiencing homelessness dream about.
A permanent place where I can put my stuff. I know it's going to be safe. I'm going to come home to my stuff. I can go to work without stress.
Now Salt Lake City is one step closer to making this a reality.
We've got more homeless people on the streets. We've got illegal camping going on. Sanction Camp will give an alternative.
They can build life skills and be able to be a part of the community that they're already a part of, but be able to be uplifted into society.
They get to have showers and water, running water, and bathrooms and trash, and people can get services to them, and we can find people to get them into housing, permanent supportive housing.
Ksenia Kanazova, the executive director of Nomad Alliance, and Zoran Simonson with the Jordan River Commission say the success of sanctioned camps has been demonstrated in other cities.
Austin and Denver, which are comparable peer cities to Salt Lake, have developed really successful models. We want this to be temporary until we have longer-term solutions in place.
But the Salt Lake County Health Department and Jim Bohannon with Solutions Utah say planning will be necessary to make it safe.
The real key is to have public health involved. It's essential for protecting against sewage disposal, right? Proper sewage disposal, proper waste management, solid waste management, also drinking water possibilities.
It all depends on how well they're managed. And the key is to get a good service provider who can bring some order and rules to the camp and make it a safe place for these folks.
Holding funding for a project like this was just the first step. The next, finding a location.
Where you locate them, I think, will be a real challenge. I mean, I think that's been part of the reason that they haven't been really on the table before is where do you locate such a place without creating a lot of concern for businesses or for residents.
It has to be on a bus route. It has to be somewhere where we can get to where we got to get to.
We can't just shove them over way far on the west side, way clear out in Magnum. Not in my backyard isn't working anymore. It's happening in our backyard whether we want it or not. But this way we can give people a safe, stable place to be.
In Salt Lake City, Darian DeBrule, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Salt Lake City Mayor Aaron Mendenhall released a statement saying in part, quote, "I applaud the City Council for their commitment to exploring sanctioned camping in the city while we continue working with the state on its effort to create a more permanent sanctioned encampment. We can potentially explore some smaller pilot projects in the city."
Missing from the list of groups the mayor has been working with on the idea of a sanctioned homeless camp was the Salt Lake Police Department. They would have the responsibility of keeping order in that kind of a camp, much like they do with homeless camps elsewhere around the city. Keeping drugs and crime out of the camp would be a major challenge. So I reached out to Salt Lake Police today to find out what they think of the mayor's statement and how law enforcement could be effective in the proposed camp. I have yet to hear back, but we'll pass it along when I do.
Well, coming up, we will show you the discoveries from an archaeological dig site in Provo, unearthing a historic Native American village.
And today was the birthday of the U.S. Army. How the Salt Lake City Recruiting Battalion celebrated.
Well, today was Flag Day. It commemorates the adoption of the United States flag, which happened on this day in 1777. There were several flag retirement ceremonies in Utah today. Fox 13 News attended one in Cedar City. We spoke with a Vietnam War veteran who played a big role in hosting today's ceremony about why something like this is so important.
Well, it's a community service we wanted to do for the community, and taking all the flags that needed to be retired and doing it in a ceremony, and show as many that wanted to come out, the public that wanted to come out, how we do this, and how we retire these colors, and how important it is to do the right way.
A special ceremony. The Iron County Veterans Coalition and Boy Scout Troop 1848 hosted this event.
Today is also the Army's birthday. It's also my son Craig's birthday, marking 248 years since the creation of the Continental Army in 1775. To celebrate, the Salt Lake City Recruiting Battalion held a celebration today at Centennial Park in West Valley City. The event featured a softball tournament as well as a swearing-in ceremony for future soldiers who plan on joining the Army right out of high school.
And whether you stay 3 years or 30 years, if you do what you're supposed to do in those 3 years and take advantage of the educational opportunities you can do after you get out, you can make yourself far better coming out than you were coming in, which is what should always be the goal of everyone that joins the military.
While the Army considers the creation of the Continental Army the official beginning, this year marks the 50th year of the military branch being made up entirely of volunteers since the end of the draft. Allison, I remember the end of the draft.
Wow, well, we've got temperatures today below average. Will again be cool tomorrow with showers and thunderstorms tonight into your morning drive. More on tonight's storm and where we could see flooding coming up.
The Bees drove in runs today in Oklahoma City, and a local soccer team returned home to a lot of cheers at the airport. We'll hear from the team coming up in sports.
After almost a month of digging and excavating, college anthropology students are wrapping up their archaeological dig, this one in Provo.
They're scrambling to find as much as they can out about a Native American village that lived long ago.
Yeah, emphasis there on long.
Yeah.
They showed Fox 13 News reporter Emily Tenser their recent discoveries and explained why the history could be lost to urban development.
What can you learn from a pile of dirt, a collection of bones?
Yeah, that's hands down bird. I wonder if that's turkey.
1,000-year-old burn marks.
You get to listen to the dirt because you're scraping along with a trowel or with a shovel, and you'll hear that little ting, and you get real excited.
Jacob Robinson is one of the young anthropologists with BYU and Weber State who have spent the past month excavating this whole site. Finally, sifting through soil to learn as much as they can about the Fremont people, a Native American village that thrived here near Utah Lake over 1,000 years ago.
we're learning a lot from how they live their lives, where they put their houses, and how it affected them prehistorically.
This land has been owned by the Hinckley family farm since the 1800s and has drawn the interest of archaeologists since the 30s.
Just found today, so literally 30 minutes ago.
John Hinckley remembers growing up and finding his own artifacts.
These guys find some every day. It's kind of fun to watch them. I'm sure there's still a lot of stuff they haven't found.
But construction of new roads and the expansion of the Provo airport has endangered some of the last remaining sites.
It's satisfying because you know you found it, and that hasn't been seen for thousands of years. And so you get to be very personally and physically involved with the people that lived here.
So if you want to be out here with the BYU and Weber State students finding pottery pieces just like this, you can volunteer, but there's only 2 more days left. Just got to go to BYU's anthropology department's website and just fill out the sign-up sheet.
You don't find a lot of jobs where you can pair manual labor with intellectual work, and this is one of them.
The students are scrambling to collect and learn as much as they can before all of their work is filled in with dirt on Tuesday.
There's so much richness that can be gained from looking back, looking at not only our history, the pioneers, but history in general, seeing where people came from and what they were doing. It really puts a lot of the things that we're experiencing nowadays in perspective.
In Provo, Emily Tenser, Fox 13 News, Utah.
Well, tonight in Utah County, we've had quite a few thunderstorms. Here in Salt Lake right now, 75 degrees, but our wind is gusting 35 miles per hour. We are in for a busy weather night here across a lot of the state and a busy morning tomorrow. So for the rest of tonight for the Wasatch Front, scattered showers and thunderstorms. Numerous showers expected for the morning drive tomorrow, along with thunderstorm activity and a chance to rain throughout much of the day tomorrow. Where we're seeing the bulk of our storms right now, we've seen a lot through Box Elder and Cache County over the last couple of hours. Tooele County really popping off still. Here along the Wasatch Front, pockets of heavy rain all the way from the Cache Valley down through the Wasatch Front right now into Utah County. And we are continuing to track some areas of heavy rainfall. Now, these are going to be slow moving storms with a lot of moisture available. As the cold front moves through, we also have a shortwave trough across the state right now. And so out ahead of that cold front, we've got a lot of moisture available to really fuel these storms, bringing potentially some slow moving storms with very high precipitation rates. So we're going to have that concern for areas of localized flash flooding tonight. Recent burn scars, slot canyons, those are all areas that'll be top of concern. Through 7 o'clock tomorrow morning, about 50 to 60 for much of the state. Throughout the day tomorrow, really going to want to keep our focus on central Utah, where we could see even some areas like Capitol Reef and the San Rafael Swell. So through central Utah, potentially a probable rating, not potentially, we do have a probable rating tomorrow for our slot canyons in the San Rafael Swell and also for Capitol Reef National Park. For Ogden tomorrow, widespread storms, less of a chance of some drier air moves in for Friday and Saturday. For Provo tomorrow, likely storms, again, starting to dry out first half of the weekend. And then we're going to have, for St. George, widely scattered storms for Thursday and Friday, but Thursday night, scattered storms. That's your best chance. Let's go ahead and show you that flash flooding potential and let you know probable does mean some slot canyons, dry washes, and small streams are expected to experience flash flooding. So please be really, really careful in those areas. For St. George, 91 tomorrow, 84 on Friday, into the upper 90s for Father's Day, along with some wind into early next week. That is our next storm that's going to move into the region. Sunday, Monday, we're going to see a cool down. There's still some question marks on how this storm is going to play out. It could just be a dry and windy storm, or we could end up with a lot of moisture with our storm early next week. So still some question marks there. Father's Day, partly cloudy here in Salt Lake, 88 degrees, along with some widely scattered to isolated storm chances late in the weekend. But for Salt Lake tomorrow, widespread storms in the forecast.
A local youth soccer club had a lot to celebrate after a week-long accomplishment overseas. Fox 13's Morgan Vance caught up with them today as they returned home to Utah.
It was one heck of a reunion at Salt Lake International Wednesday. All after the 2007 gals of Club Avalanche Utah took a little trip overseas and bringing back plenty of bling along with them.
We competed against Scotland, Finland, Spain.
These 15 and 16-year-olds from Payson to West Valley have been building up to this moment.
We started as a rec team, actually, moving with a few players up into a competition league, and we've just been going up and up from there.
Way up, getting help from generous sponsors along the way to compete against a new brand of competition. In Barcelona, how do you deal with the language barriers?
They spoke a little bit of English, and we do have a few Spanish speakers on our team.
You know what? The best part was when we made it to the finals, we could hear USA, USA being chanted along the sidelines, and it wasn't us.
The one and only team from America representing. Not only did Avalanche win it all, they failed to surrender a single goal all tournament long.
So amazing, because when we were going into the tournament, we didn't know how hard the competition was going to be, how well we were going to do. We've heard of other teams going, and sometimes they get destroyed, and it was great to be able to have that feeling of we were able to go across the whole world and still beat everyone.
How different do they do things over in Spain?
It was just so different than here, and they were just cheering so loud with like bells, smoke bombs, and everything just on the sidelines, cheering on even if their teams were losing. They just had so much energy. It was so fun to watch.
Avalanche won't be home for long. They take off to compete at Nationals in California later this month. From the airport,
it felt really good just to know we finally did it and our work paid off.
Morgan Vance, Fox 13 Sports.
Well, the Salt Lake Bees played this afternoon in Oklahoma City. Joe Adell back with the Bees after a short stint with the Los Angeles Angels. Drops in for a base hit. Jack Lopez comes in to scores. Bees up 2-0 in the second inning. Then in the sixth inning, Jordan Adams at the plate. Lifts it to right field. And this one goes off the wall. He hustles around for a triple, scoring Andrew Velasquez. The Bees went up 4-1. They went on to beat the Dodgers 6-3. We'll be right back.
Thanks for being part of Fox 13 News at 9.
QuickCast is next.